Hello and welcome to the video for Wednesday, September 2nd for game design. I'm going to go ahead and let people into the class. Hello.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Hello.
All right.
Good. Well, let me go ahead. Hi there, Creed. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Is that a guitar I see back there?
I don't know if it's in shot, but there's definitely one in here.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, back there. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What is that? Electric or acoustic?
Acoustic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's my girlfriend's. I've been like, especially with quarantine, I started trying to teach myself, so I took it from her.
Nice.
It's mine now.
Cool. Well, let me go ahead and get the roll here. Okay. Teach. Okay. Game design. Take roll. Okay. Make this smaller. So let's see. Yesai is here. Eduardo, I don't see yet. Britt, no. Jazz is here. Nick is here. Jeshua, yes. Hunter, yes. Brian, yes. Joshua, nope. Creed is here. Coulter, yes. Esteban, yes. Jesse, no. Victoria, yes. Logan, no. Sam, no. Jaden, yes. And Cal, no. And I think that's it. Okay. All right, cool. Got you guys all taken care of from the attendance perspective. How you doing today?
Doing good.
Everything?
I'm pretty good.
All right.
I'm good.
Also doing well.
Let's see. Oh, Hugo says he's here. All right, let's see. Let me make sure he's here. Here we go. Oh, yeah, I got you, Hugo. Okay, you're good. And then there's Jesse. Let me add him in. Jesse. Okay, cool. All right. Now, before I forget, Monday is a holiday. Yay. I know, cool. So we won't have class, but we'll have class again on Wednesday. So anybody doing anything fun for the weekend? 3-day weekend? Nope.
Nope.
Maybe
Just
working.
Yeah, yeah.
Working, yeah. Collective nothingness happening here.
Pretty much.
Maybe we can get some good gaming in or something like that. Or maybe work
Yeah, right.
on some cool games.
Hopefully win some Fall Guys.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, so I think I want to start with seeing if you guys have done anything new with your games. If you made any progress, either art-wise, or you wrote rules, or sketched out a game board, or anything like that. Like to take a look at that stuff. So who's got something they want to share?
I have the game board drawn up.
Okay, cool. Well, let me bring up your folder, and then I'll share my screen.
Oh, I need to submit it to the folder real quick. Give me just a sec.
Oh yeah, no problem. Well, I'll find.
The file size is very, very large, so I don't know if it'll like work, but I can try to figure out how to put it in there.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, see if you have any luck. And
Okay.
meanwhile, I'll try and find your folder here. Let's see, Hunter.
Okay.
gam101, there you are. Okay, I've got your folder. Now I can share my screen. And then when that thing pops in, we'll be able to see it. Okay. So what kind of have you guys run into any issues as far as like communications or people not showing up for your team meetings or any of that kind of stuff? Are you doing okay, or are you having any problems with that?
We've had some coordination issues, quite severe actually, so we're going to take a look at that after class today.
Okay. Yeah, you do want to look at that because, unfortunately, sometimes the dynamic of these teams is that one or two people end up doing all the work for like a 4 or 5 person team because you can't get a hold of the other people, and obviously that's not fair to everybody. So you want to see if you can find a way to communicate and do as close to a fair distribution of labor as possible, But so you said you're going to talk after class about that today, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other issues along those lines, or is anybody else having a lot of success in that category?
Our
Okay.
team seems to be doing pretty well. Just at least, communicating through Discord and everything has been pretty smooth. So that's been nice.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, that's the same with our team as well. I feel like it's really distributed. We're getting all the artwork down for the poker thing, and then once we progress from that, we're going to start working with like the technical aspect and the mechanics of the game and just finalizing that.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, obviously teams. One of the purposes of a class like this is to get you to work in teams, and there's kind of pros and cons to that, as you guys are aware, I'm sure. Sometimes you get, all go-getters on your team, and sometimes it's a variety, and then you have to figure out, if you're going to pick up the slack if somebody else is not, not really coming through. So, but unfortunately, that's the way teams are in the real world too. So, but in that case, you can try and get somebody fired and replace with somebody better. Can't really do that in the class, but it's still good experience,
Oh yeah, everything's so far so good on our end.
Okay, good. Any other reports from any other teams or? No. Okay. All right. So Hunter, you're still trying to upload that bad boy?
Yeah, like I said, the file size is really big. I've tried to send it to myself 3 times now, and it won't show up.
So-
I wonder if it'd be possible to share my screen, but I don't know if that'll work for you guys.
Yeah, of course. Let me. That's a great idea, actually. I just have to make it so you can share it.
Okay.
Okay, I just did that, and now, yeah, go ahead and share your screen. That would be perfect.
Okay. All right. So can you guys see it?
Yep.
All right. So I had a little bit of trouble putting in the grid. I'm gonna have to go back and tweak it because it's very difficult, I've found, to make a grid on programs like Photoshop.
Yeah.
That'll save. So I'm over here putting a ruler up to my screen, and I'm ashamed to say that because who has to put a ruler up to their screen? But some of the things aren't even, which I'm not, like I said, gonna have to go back and tweak that. But overall, here's like the concept with the islands here, and then we have kind of like barricades, I guess, that'll stop enemy shots, or sometimes if an enemy doesn't coordinate their shots right with the wind, they might just hit the debris. But yeah, this is pretty much what I got down so far for the map. And yeah.
Hunter, on a side note, for getting that grid down, you might want to research paths.
Paths?
Yes,
Let
paths.
me write that down. What is it called?
PATHS. It's
P-A-
now it might be called the pen tool in Photoshop.
Yes, I was trying to use the pen tool, but I laid down the grid and then I was using the pen tool, but I couldn't. I'm not good with Photoshop, so I couldn't figure out how to take the lines that were being drawn with the pen tool and make them lines. So, but yeah, I'll
Oh,
try to
okay.
figure it
So yeah, no. What you want to do with that then is So the pen tool makes paths. Now, paths should be a window, a dockable window you can open up, and you should be able to select it there. Now, what you can do while you have the pen tool active, oh wait, no, sorry, I'm thinking about GIMP, but there should be a way to access the path itself, and there should be an option in that dockable window to, it should be called stroke path, and
Okay.
that'll put down paint, per whatever settings you set along the path.
Okay, I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I can show you some of that after you're done showing us the demo. I can show you both Photoshop and Illustrator ways to make grids like that.
Okay.
Well, this is looking really good. I noticed there were a couple comments down here. Eduardo liked the compass, and
I did not make that compass. I will admit I stole that off Google, but you didn't hear that from me. I'll make my own compass.
there's plenty of websites where you can get free graphics. VecTeezy is one I use a lot, but it's okay to get graphics from free places, and especially if they're royalty free. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the graphic look of this is very nice. Obviously, you're struggling with the grid a little bit, but you know, the burned sort of old parchment looks great, and the little land masses and the X's. It all looks very piratey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody have any suggestions or comments?
Considering I know what the islands are going to be used for, the islands are going to be able to be interacted with as long as the ship is close to them.
What's that?
Perhaps, like you remember how we have a mechanic where the ships will be able to interact with islands if they're close to them?
I believe the way the islands work is it's kind of like a domination game almost, where you capture the island and then the enemy tries to take that island, and the island after it's captured has health. So when the ships arrive, they capture. If the island is destroyed, then that's the opportunity for the enemy ships to come in and capture it.
Were we not going to go with the idea that islands can also heal our ships?
What was that?
That the islands can repair our ships? Were we not going to do that?
Yes, we were. I think we were going to do that. Yeah.
Then perhaps in a like a 4x4 square around an island, you can outline that 4x4 square to show what the interaction area is.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, we can do that.
And is there have you thought at all about maybe coloring the islands as a way to differentiate them from each other?
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about like making the X's look like different colors, but I wanted to keep the kind of style saturated, like the kind of old-fashioned medieval pirate stuff.
Yeah.
But I can definitely add some more colors if my team wants me to.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever you guys think will work for you. I know that one of the comments that was just made about highlighting, you know, an area is a good one too. Just anything that will make it easier for the people who are playing, you know, like if this island grouping to the lower left of the central X, you know, if that's going to be like H1 or H20 and 19 and I20 and 19 or something like that, it would be nice if it were outlined in such a way that it would be easy to look to the left and the top and know where it is, or maybe even potentially just put those numbers right on the square, you know,
Yeah.
so that you don't even have to go look up here. It just says H, you know, 19 and 20 and I 19 and 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see what you mean.
Cool. Any other commentary from you guys?
I think it looks really cool. I love the look of the map, like you were saying too. It just looks nice and piratey. Looks awesome.
So, is this type of game supposed to be like kind of like domination? Because you said you have to capture it, but then once it's destroyed, the other whoever's battling against them captures it next.
Yeah. It's kind of like a battleship mixed with a domination.
Okay. Cool.
All our ships have their own stats, like range, health. all that jazz.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, looks good, man. All right, very nice. Okay, so why don't you give me my screen back here,
Gotcha.
and then let me launch Photoshop, and maybe I can show you something in there that'll be helpful to you. Let's see, where is my damn Adobe programs here? Adobe Photoshop. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I guess I'll share my screen. Share. It's just going to take a second for Photoshop to load in. So have you ever used Illustrator, Hunter, or are you just a Photoshop guy?
I tried to use Illustrator, and then I think I raged the hardest I've ever raged in my life trying to get around how to use some of it. I've played a lot of games in my life where you break things. Adobe Illustrator broke me. It broke my sanity. I like Photoshop a lot more.
Okay, well, let's talk about Photoshop. I'm a fan of Illustrator, and if I had to do your grid, I would do it in Illustrator because you know, it works for me. Sign
Yeah.
out one of your devices. Let's see, sign out. You've reached your device limit. Okay, sign out of that other thing. You've activated this device successfully. Okay. Yeah. All right, so here we are in Photoshop. We don't care about what's new. Okay, we don't care. All right, let's just open this robot here. There we go, I admit. Okay. Why is that downloading? Oh my God, so annoying. I don't even know what a PSD. Okay, here, let me open this thing. So I'm just trying to find something to open that will open like in a reasonable time frame. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here is a little game board, and let's say we wanted to put a grid on it for whatever reason, okay? Now, in Photoshop, if you hold down are you on a Mac or a PC? Probably a PC, right?
Yeah, I'm on a Windows.
Okay, if you hold down your control key and you hit the quote marks, it will bring up a grid. Now, the grid is very small on my screen right now, but you can change the size of the grid sections. What you do is on the Macintosh, it's going to be Photoshop preferences. On the PC, I believe it's like edit preferences. But you just go under preferences and you go to guides, grids, and slices. And then right here, you can change the grids. You can say, you know, I want a grid every so many inches and I want so many subdivisions, right? So let me just change this to a grid every 4 inches, and you can see how it changes back there. Or,
oh, it's so simple. Oh my God.
yeah, I know, I'm sorry. I know you like spent half your life working on this, you know.
Oh.
I know it's brutal, isn't it? It's like, but that's the way it is with everything, man. It's like you spend your whole life trying to figure something out, and somebody else shows you in 2 seconds. You're like, I hate you.
Oh God.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the first part of it, which is, you know, defining the grid, the size you want. Okay, but now, of course, that's just a grid helper for you. You still have to make the lines, right? Now, what I'm gonna, yeah.
We haven't made the lines yet?
No, I haven't made the lines. See what those grids are?
Yeah.
That grid is just a guide for you, okay?
Okay.
You still have to make the lines. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a new layer, okay? And I'll show you how I would make the lines. In Photoshop, if you click on the selection tool here, one of the tools is the single row marquee tool, right?
Okay.
And so, for example, I could go here and I could click on this line, and we can't really see it, but it's selecting a single row of pixels, right?
Okay.
Now, I have yellow as my foreground color here, so if I go edit fill with what's called the foreground color, it's going to fill that with yellow. Now, if I turn my grid off and I zoom in, you'll see this super thin, you know, yellow line there, right? And so you might be thinking, well, that line is going to be too thin, right? But
Yeah.
then you could go to this layer and you could turn on your FX down at the bottom and click stroke. You can say, well, I want this to be the same yellow color, and then you can say, well, I want this to be stroke the outside of that line, and I want it to be so many pixels, right? And then then what it will do is it will give you the size line you want. So the way to do that, the way that I would do this in Photoshop is I would turn the grid on, I would get this single pixel tool, and I would click on each one of these lines, and I would do edit fill and fill each one of those lines with the little yellow color, right? And then when I had done all the ones horizontally, I would go and do all the ones vertically, like so. And see, because I applied this special effect, which is adding the stroke, it's adding the stroke to everything that's added to that layer. So the second I put this 1 pixel thing down, 1 pixel line down, it automatically strokes it to whatever width that I told it to. So you can see how you can very quickly create a grid like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and by the way, I'm recording this like I record all the sessions. So if you wanted to go back and watch the video and see all the things I clicked on, you could do that.
Okay.
Okay, and I won't even bother going into Illustrator and showing you because I know you hate Illustrator.
I do not like Illustrator.
And you would never do it. But I like Illustrator because I can go even faster. Well, you know what? I'm going to show it to you just to torment you because
Okay, that's fine.
because Illustrator is even faster than this damn program. And when you see it, you could hate me even more. And it's okay to hate me.
So just a selection, just click a button and then bam, whole grid.
With Illustrator, Illustrator has this thing called Command D or Control D, which duplicates your last movement, your last motion, right? So with Illustrator, I can simply draw one line and copy it and drag it down the distance that I want to be from the second line, and then I just hit Command D and it repeats that action over and over again, and I can make a grid in no time flat. But we'll see because Illustrator's opening right now. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously everybody has their different tools. GIMP is a big one for free Photoshop, and then what is it, Inkscape or something? What's the Illustrator one? Ink something, right?
It sounds like that, but I didn't actually follow it.
Yeah, I think some people use that.
Before I got Krita, before I got Photoshop, I was using Krita, which is very easy to use. After you get some practice, which I can imagine it's the same for all these programs.
Right.
But Krita has like a very vast assortment of like things you can add onto it, which that's what I like about it. And it's free. It's all free.
Yeah. You know, there are so many good free programs nowadays. It's hard to argue with those, and especially if you guys are really good at using a certain program, it's hard for me to say, oh, you should go learn Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that. But you know, Photoshop and Illustrator are still the industry standards. So if you go work for a company, it's more than likely they're going to have you use Photoshop or Illustrator as opposed to Krita. So, you know, it doesn't hurt you to sort of learn those programs, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so here, let's open up the same damn file, or a similar file, I'll say, and put a grid on it in Illustrator. You see all these little compasses? I got all those from a vector site. So, you know, they were free. And so you can get all kinds of cool stuff there. Okay. It is almost ready to open up. Could not find the link file. We don't care. Apply to all. Just give it a second here. It's opening up. Okay, so here's kind of a similar file. Okay, so let me, oh my God, look at all those layers. Who does that? Okay, anyway, all all right, let me add a new layer on top of this, right? Now, I'll just kind of show you what you can do with this program. So, you know, obviously this program is all vector based, so it's easy to draw lines and stuff like that.
Why?
So you can go to the line segment tool here, and let's see. I'm going to draw my lines in white so they're easy to see. So let's say I wanted to come up here to like this 1/2 inch point, and I wanted to draw a line, right? And now let's say that I want that line to be duplicated all the way across here, right? So all I have to do is click on it, hold down my Option key, and move it over to, you know, the 2-inch mark, right? So I drew my line, and then I made a move where I copied it and moved it over a certain amount, right? Now all you do is Command D, and it replicates your last action. So you just do that, and you get all your lines, right? Now, if I wanted to very quickly make a copy of this and flip it 90 degrees, I could come over here and double click on my rotation thing here. I could say I want to flip it 90 degrees. I want a preview of it, and I want to make it a copy, and boom, I've got a grid, right? So, and that's why I say Illustrator. I mean, of course, you have to like the program. You have to own the program and know how to use it or whatever. But in Illustrator, it's easier because it's all vector lines. It's easier to just create things like that. But of course, you just saw Photoshop, and it's not that hard to create it in there. It just takes a little more effort. And of course, Photoshop is an awesome program as well. So, okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. All right, let's see. We have a chat item in here. Let's see. Poor Hunter says, sorry, you're getting love from your fellow gamers here who feel your pain, Hunter. Okay. All right. Who else has something that they would like to share with us from their game perspective? Somebody did some more work on their game, on their rules, on the graphics.
I did a little bit of the art for the game board. Let me see.
Do you want to share your screen or?
Yeah. Trying to see. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We will share. Yes, that one. Okay, so you're seeing Discord at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It might take a little bit to load up. I think we'll get the best resolution here. Okay, so yes. So the idea was to represent different sectors of the city. And let me move this video over here. And so I used sections of the, no, go, just stop. So I used sections of the various public domain art, and I was going to add some modifications to them, give them a little bit of a tweak here and there. For example, put like more furnaces in the industrial area down here. And, you know, as a template, I was just playing around with it. So, you know, I've got my food processing layer here. I could just move that if I wanted to, and it's already merged down. So the art is kind of in a transparent frame. So, you know, if I move it now, it's not going to be a big deal. I was thinking maybe disorganized mercenary table or whatnot. Cause you know, we could, if my computer doesn't die in the process, you know, move it around and we can rotate that image, maybe have it half hanging off the table with its stats on it, you know, and orient the stats kind of like on the pad. So if you're reading it going, you know, more this way, you know, I don't know, but this is also a theme you can run with, is just like a vague representation of holographic images into something else.
Okay, and then what how will these be used in the game?
So the idea that we were bantering about was so the turn, and this is part of what I proposed last time, was the turn is simultaneous. I want to have a card draw mechanic at the beginning of the turn, and then there's the turn is somehow there's a mission selected from the deck. Somebody rolls a dice to determine what location you're going to be at, and the determination for the location. And I'm not so big on like including just a board for this, because to me it would be easier to include it as a deck of cards, but because that way it's easier to expand, right? Anyway, so the locations will have modifiers to the stats that we're going to have. What the modifiers do is they modify the requirements of a place. So if something has a requirement of attack, then you have to have a higher defense than that requirement. If something has a high publicity requirement, you have to have a higher stealth than the publicity, and vice versa. Those stats are paired. It was a pretty simple matching mechanic. But anyway, the idea is that for those 4 stats, the missions have a requirement to claim them as the prize. In the simultaneous turn action, okay, so the location adds a modifier to the card, great. Now everybody has their cards in their hands. They're going to start playing them for the turn, and then maybe they have cards that give them bonuses to draw extra cards or whatnot. Maybe that shakes up the gameplay a little bit, but the idea is that they are playing modifiers on themselves, but also on other players in the scene. The idea is, we can go all night at this until we're out of cards, or we can hold back and just let the mission go. And what happens then is you throw in a little bit of spice, a little bit of chance, and roll it. 2d6. When the dice hit the table, everything's over, and the person with the highest total for their they can add that 12 points wherever they want on their stats for the mission. So you roll 2d6, you get those points. Those points apply to like attack or stealth or whatever you need. But the point is, that's like the end of the mission. And then the person with the highest, who beats the requirements by the most, ends up being the victor of the card. I think this was just kind of encourages a fast-paced gameplay, and also has kind of this jovial spirit of, okay, well, maybe I can get there first next time, sort of thing.
So when it comes to ending the game, have you thought about have you considered anything like victory points?
Yeah, I didn't outline that clearly the last time. So the reason you're going after the missions is, and there's a couple of tweaks on this I might want. I did want a conditional operator. So everybody gets a secret identity, a merc leader, and they have their own secret goal. And the goal is of basically 3 types of victory points. And people can choose to go for missions or choose not to go for missions. And part of the design of the numbers for mercs versus the missions is the missions are going to be hard, and they will kind of favor 1 stat, and some will very heavily favor 2 stats. But I don't have any of those numbers yet. So the idea is when a merc leader arrives at their victory condition on their secret identity, they can reveal their identity and count up the points based on the types of VPs, max types of VP, just to sum it all up.
Okay, and do you have an ideal time range when this game would be played? For sort of your average public, would they play it for 2 hours? Would they play it for 4 hours? I mean, can you consider something like that?
The time scope I hadn't really considered. If I was going to do a game that would take that long, I would definitely add more elements to it.
Do you think it's going to take an hour?
No, I think it's going to take less than that.
Oh, okay. All right. So, okay, great. So you've got a game that can be played in under an hour, which is a great, it's a great target to shoot for, you know,
Mhm.
because people love games that they can play in 45 minutes or whatever.
It's a lunch hour game.
Okay, cool. That's perfect. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of moving parts. You know, maybe if you can sort of clarify or set in stone a little bit more what the actual victory conditions are and how those can be met. Um, you know, it can help you sort of create an end conditions for the game
Right.
that would occur organically. You know what I mean?
hmm
And that might help you with some of the decisions of, you know, when you guys are making the rules for the game so that you can lead people to that place within 45 minutes.
Yeah. We'll definitely get everything easily identifiable, and certainly the secret identities, the merc leaders, are going to have mostly just in headers their victory conditions on the card, and then there's a pick of them, and then some blurb, some flavor text. So the idea is, okay, take a peek at your card, keep it secret as you're going through the game. And you want to aim for the ones that are going to give you high value towards your victory goal. But if you do that, then the other players are going to start seeing your pattern and start preventing you from doing that.
That's cool. That sounds really like a fun mechanic.
Mhm.
I like that. Okay, cool. Very nice. Thank you, Jess. Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to share about their game?
And I don't have really much of anything to show at this point, but yeah, just because like what I've been working on at this point is I posted into our Discord, just the Team 4 chat, the stats of the monsters, and now what I'm working on right now is the stats of the enemy cards, which would be like humans. So I'm working on their stats right now, and then after I finish those, get into the rules of the game and everything.
Okay.
But yeah, we're the team. So Eduardo showed all his concept art for the cards. Brian showed his concept art for the game box. So nothing much more at this point for me, at least.
Now, how are you? Okay, I understand. How are you generating the statistics? Is that all just coming out of your head?
No, so like that's what I've been trying to like. So I set them all equal to like all their stats would add up to 32, just kind of like an arbitrary number. But
Okay.
I've been trying. I was basing all the monster stats on like what they would be realistically. So like how Cthulhu's like this big giant monster. I made his stamina lower because he's so big. It'll take him. He's just has a lower stamina. And then some of the other monsters that like there's one Azathoth who's just like almost like a gaseous orb, so he has a higher stamina and a little more health because he's hard to hit since he's all gaseous and stuff like that. So I was taking the time to try to like make their stats work with how they would actually be in real life.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, has anybody on your team ever watched the first season of True Crime?
I have not. I don't know if anyone else has.
Oh, well, because the whole first season is based on this whole Cthulhu mythology. I mean, they're looking for,
Really?
yeah, they're looking for the Yellow King,
Really?
Yeah, it's really good, actually. So if you get a chance, I think it's Matthew McConaughey and Woody, what's his name? Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
I think they're the ones who, they both produced that and also star in that first season.
That's so interesting. I saw like I would always see like the promotional work for that show, but I never thought it was like that. I thought it was like Law and Order type of show. That's awesome.
Well, it is actually. What happens
Oh,
is it's a detective story,
okay,
but
right.
like all these like gruesome things happen, and then they start hearing these rumors about somebody called the Yellow King, So
Really?
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's really cool. I'll definitely check it out then.
Yeah.
His actual name is Haster.
Aster?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Yellow King.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Creed. Does anybody else have anything? I know we just saw some things a couple days ago, so you may not have much. Anybody else have anything you want to share? Okay, let's see. If not, then let me go back to the website here. Game design. Okay. Let me go back here. Game design. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to go over here to my notes, which are, from that little challenges textbook PDF that I shared with you guys. And so you can read along, and you can read that textbook if you like. My notes kind of summarize some of what's going on there. So let's see. Last time we talked about aesthetics, mechanics, and dynamics as sort of the three pillars of game design. And then, to come down to the next section here, there are common core dynamics that are, common to many games. One of them is, which is very big, is territorial acquisition. And territorial acquisition can, probably one of the best games to represent that is Risk, because you see Risk and it essentially is just territorial acquisition. You're basically trying to acquire more territory all over the world until you rule the world, basically. But chess also is territorial acquisition in a way, because what you're doing is you're going all over the board and you're wiping out other soldiers, so to speak. And then, when you're the last man or woman standing, then, you basically own everything, right? Okay, so can you guys, do any of you guys have territorial acquisition dynamics in your games? What do you think? Well, certainly the battleship game seems like territorial acquisition, doesn't it? Yeah. So, sometimes what can help is if you can identify some of the dynamics that are happening in your game, you can go look at those existing games and get ideas for your game. Now, I'm not saying, steal their exact ideas or their exact graphics or anything like that, but you can certainly be inspired by them, right? And I don't know if you guys know this, but you can't actually copyright a game mechanic. You can copyright the name of a game. You can copyright, all of the cards, all that kind of stuff. But the game mechanics are uncopyrightable because so many game mechanics are common to so many different games. So that means if you go look at a game and you like the way that they're implementing a rule, you can use that without, infringing on anybody's copyright. And of course, you can then customize it to your needs. So that's why, if you do have a game like this one, which is, has sort of a battleship component to it, go look at Battleship, go look at all the other games that are similar to that and see if you can get some inspiration from them.
Right. That's what I've been kind of doing with our game is I'm taking a lot of inspiration from the Dark Souls card game.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's perfect. Yeah, I was thinking because that's what, the mechanics are just really cool and they kind of fit the style that I wanted to go for. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And that's great because, games have existed for thousands of years. So it's not like you have to create everything from scratch. You know what I mean? It's like when people create music, there's whole genres of music that already exist. So they don't have to invent the blues or jazz, they can just work in that genre and create their own sort of custom contribution to it.
Right.
And by the way, when it comes to mechanics, I think I may have shown you guys this book before, but it's worth mentioning again. Let's see. If we go to Amazon here. So, there is a book out there. Yeah, this one right here. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but there is a book out there that is just every game mechanic ever, put into a major release of a game is in this book. And it's not cheap. You can see that the hardcover is $149. However, the Kindle's only $47, and you can even rent the Kindle book for a specific amount of time. I think if you rent this book for 2 weeks, it costs you $16, and then it just kind of vanishes, right? But if you had $16 and you were like, I would like to look at every territorial acquisition rule ever used in a major game, it's going to be in this book. So that's kind of cool. All right. All right, let me go back here to the notes. So, okay, in other games, another common core dynamic is prediction. And that is best exemplified in something like rock, paper, scissors. Can you guys think of any sort of board or card game where prediction is like, a dynamic that is part of the game?
Also chess.
What was that?
Also chess.
Okay.
And checkers.
Yeah.
And checkers, yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, those are good examples. So, obviously, and, even to a certain extent, Clue, the game where you guess who killed somebody, right? Now it is prediction in a sense, but it isn't really because, it's basically deduction or induction, because you figured out who it's not, and whoever's remaining must be the killer, right? Okay, so then we have just other examples of core dynamics. Spatial reasoning, of course. Tetris is the granddaddy of all of them. And then here's a huge and ginormous one: the survival dynamic, right? Resident Evil is an example, but here's something that's really fun and worth doing.
Best game.
Yeah, you just click on this link here, and this is what's so amazing about survival video games. There are so many of them that the Wikipedia page has to list them alphabetically, right? Not only are there so many of them, but they fall into different categories, like battle royale games, right? So we open that up. We have Fortnite, Fate, Stay Night, right? We have Dead Space games, Dino Crisis, right? So all of these are survival games, listed by categories there at the top, subcategories at the top. But then down here they are listed alphabetically, and just look at the list. It's so incredibly ginormous. Now, what does this tell you about survival games? Are they perhaps a popular genre?
Very much so.
Okay. Now, there's something good and bad about that. Let's say you wanted to make a survival game. Tell me some of the reasons why that would be a good choice, and tell me some of the reasons why that would be a bad choice.
It's hard to be unique with so many different games.
Right. So the competition is fierce, right?
Right.
Now, but what is one of the good things about making a survival game?
Appeals to a lot of people since a lot of people love them.
Yeah, so the reason there's so much competition is because people love them. So have you guys heard of that phrase, the theory of abundance? Have you guys heard of that? So the theory of abundance, kind of paraphrase, goes like this: it's an abundant universe and there's enough for everybody, right? So in that kind of scenario, you wouldn't really be worried about the competition, because you're like, well, yeah, sure, there's a bunch of survival games, but nobody's ever created the exact version of a survival game that I'm going to create. And there's an abundant appetite for survival games. So as long as I do my job well and create something kind of new to add to the genre, there's an audience for it, Right. So that's something to think about when you guys are pursuing your games, whether they be, like physical games or video games, is the idea of entering the mainstream or entering sort of the niche market, right? It's kind of like creating a product and putting it on the web. If you were going to create something like, let's just say something that's really common. Okay, those little shades that you put in your windshield to stop the car from heating up, right?
Yep.
If you're gonna create something like that, it would be a commodity, which would mean something that everybody has, and so it would be really hard to stand out in that market, right? However, everybody needs to buy them, so as long as yours stood out among the pack, like maybe via color or design, or maybe it was really clever, like those round ones that just kind of fold into each other.
Yeah.
I hate those because I can
I
never.
know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I the only one?
No, they suck.
Yeah, they suck. So
Yeah.
so here's the deal. If somebody came out with one of those car window shade things, but it had this like sort of idiot-proof design, where
Right, like
we're
some
ready to
mechanism
fold-
that would fold it for you almost.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's been pre-folded in this origami kind of way, so that when you take it and you just fold it, it just kind of folds itself, right? If
Right.
somebody did that, they would become a millionaire, 12 times over, because I and everybody else are like we're waiting for that. Actually, we're waiting for that change. So
Right.
if you're somebody who plays a lot of survival games and you get an idea, you're like, why do survival games always do this? I always hate this. There's this flaw in most survival games, and you figure out a way to fix it. You might have this huge audience that beats a path to your door because they want your game. Now
Right.
that's once again working towards the mainstream, right? Now let's talk about the niche. Can you tell me some games that are really occupy a niche genre?
Trivia.
Like any trivia game, like a Trivial Pursuit, or just
Actually, come to think of it, never mind on that.
okay. Who else has an idea? What's a game that kind of, when you think about it, kind of exists in and of itself, and you can't think of a lot of games that are quite like it?
Dungeon Warfare.
I'm sorry, what, Nick?
Dungeon Warfare. It's a game on Steam. Think like actually, I guess it's tower defense. I'm not sure.
It's tower defense. Okay.
Baba is you.
How about Izu?
Baba is you.
Baba is you, and what is that?
I can show you.
Oh yeah.
Let me move you guys. I can't really do. Yes, exit there. And full screen here, share screen 2. Okay, switching to, okay, so, why is it not here? There we go. So this was, I think it was a Swedish developer, indie developer, and he came up with this game. It actually got critical acclaim because of how its mechanics work. Obviously, the graphics are, for the most part, only second generation art.
We can't see it yet. We can only still see this YouTube.
Ooh. Is that not working then? Hang on one sec. Let me refigure that.
Okay.
Stop. Okay. So let's change that to there. How's that?
Okay, now
There
we
it
can
is.
see it. Now we
We
can
can see it now.
Okay. So yeah, the art isn't great, obviously, but I've seen some early art. This is only their second generation, but that's the rules that are really awesome. So let me go find one that's so I can explain it better. The levels are all self-explanatory. I've gone through this a little bit. So for example, you're level 1. Where do I go? And this just teaches you some of the basics of the mechanics. Okay, so here's a bunch of walls, and we have a rule here that says wall is stop. But since I'm, I can push anything, I can push rules, I can do this, and suddenly I can walk through the walls. Now, Of course, there are consequences to some actions, like disconnecting you from the world. But, oh, and of course you can also press D to undo things. And then of course you push around a rule to a win tile and define it. So it's all nouns and verbs, but it gets really, really complex later on. It's an amazing system.
Yeah,
So cool.
it's breathtaking. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of course, you made a great call because I've never heard of anything like this.
Right.
Yeah. I figure, new indie games like this probably deserve a little bit of a spotlight.
Definitely.
Absolutely, and they're good games to illustrate this concept, which is dominating a niche. We just talked about survival games, and sure, you can make a survival game, but of course, you might be competing against the AAA game companies to do that. But if you
Right.
make an indie game and you define a niche that hasn't really existed before, you have a much better chance of bringing the world to your doorstep because of the singularity of your product. So do we know why it's called Baba Is You? Is that just
Well, so we're going back into the level. The main character that you start with in level 1 is a sheep called a Baba.
Baba. That's really cute. Nice.
But as you go through, so let me show you another section here. Some of these rules get really kind of cool. And I don't remember a lot of these, but let's see if I can do a simple one here. Okay, so pushing the rock. Star is sync, and what sync does is it destroys the object, but it also destroys, what it was you ran into. So I can push the rock into the thing, but the skull is the feet, so I can't walk through this skull. And honestly, I don't remember how I solved this one, but it's puzzles like this that get you through to thinking in a really different way.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's so cool. All right, very nice. Thank you, Jazz. Okay, so then we have some other mechanics here or dynamics. Destruction, first-person shooter. Obviously, that is a ginormous category in and of itself. If you go to first-person shooter in Wikipedia,
You might have to reshare your screen, Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back there to the screen. Zoom, where are you, Zoom? Oh, Zoom, oh, here it is. Okay, so share my screen, share. Okay, so, you can look up first-person shooter on Wikipedia, and there's going to be a whole huge, article about it and all the different levels and multiplayer and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, first-person shooter is another huge genre that you would have to think a lot about, proposing a game that would enter that market. Now, we have some other dynamics here. Building dynamics, whoever thought that a game, like just a building game would attract a huge audience, but SimCity, did and
Right.
was very big. And so it's a very clever mechanic. And when they first came out with that, I'm sure that it was a genre, an indie niche game. And now, of course, there's more building games. There's collection games like Magic the Gathering is, probably the granddaddy of them. Chasing or evading games like Pac-Man. Trading games like Settlers of Catan and Pokemon. And then there is a brand of game which it might be the simplest mechanic that ever existed. It's called Race to the End. And that is basically every game that you ever see advertised on Christmas for families. So it's Parcheesi, it's Trouble, it's Sorry, and for little kids, it's Snakes and Ladders, right? Or Shoots and Ladders. So, basically all you're doing is trying to get to the end before everybody else. And that's the whole mechanic, right? There's snakes and ladders right there, right? Okay, let me go back a few. Okay. So, where do you guys think game ideas come from? Where have you guys gotten some ideas for some of your games?
I will like the concept that we had come up with. I kind of thought of it through like my personal interests. Like I just always thought like Lovecraftian stuff was cool, creepy monsters were cool. So I kind of thought to do something with that involving things that I'm interested in.
Right, and that's a great way to do it because obviously if you create a game of things that you're interested in, you'll be interested in working on it. You'll put a certain amount of passion in it.
Right.
I mean, don't you feel like the games that you enjoy the most are the ones where you could tell that the creators were just super passionate about the subject matter?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, has anybody ever played that board game Wingspan?
No.
Okay.
No.
Let me just show you this game. So Wingspan is this game where basically you're in charge of taking care of certain breeds of birds. And what you have to do is you have to make sure that the birds are migrating at the right time and that they have enough food and that they can lay their eggs. Basically, you're helping the birds survive, right? Well, the person who was behind the research of this game spent years doing research on birds and all the different types, how they live, what their mating patterns are, how when they migrate, right? So obviously this person was just insanely passionate about this subject matter, right? And so, I don't know what the backstory is. I don't know if they approached the game company or what, but that person took all of that knowledge of, the birds and combined it with a game developer and with an artist, and they produced this game which is incredibly intense in the level of detail and realism about the world of birds. And as a result, the game was hugely successful. It's in fact, it's so successful that they even made a version of it for Tabletop Simulator. You can go into Tabletop Simulator and pay $4 or $5 and get the premium version of Wingspan, which you can play in there. And it's a pretty amazing game. You can see all the little eggs, the specific dice, all the little tokens. I've seen this game played at, game conventions, and you'll see just a huge table covered with eggs and little things, and people are just having a great time playing this, which once again is a very sort of indie, genre idea, niche genre idea, because who wants to make a game about birds that's so intense that you spent years doing the research. So just going back to Creed's comment about passion and interests, yes, of course, it's a great way to develop games. Okay, any other ways that you guys got ideas for games that you've created or now or in the past? Was anyone ever inspired by another game to create a game?
Well, I mean, my personal project in Unity is inspired by that. I'm sure I'm not going to beat Starship Evo to the punch of replacing space engineers, but it still is an interesting area to be developing in. Okay, so you found something that you were passionate about and inspired you, and now you're making your own kind of version of it? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right, yeah, so, obviously game ideas can come from anywhere, but being inspired, building a better mousetrap, so to speak, and just, by the way, there is a game called Mousetrap. I don't know if you guys know, it's a board game, but, it's always about
sometimes creating a new game is not about creating a whole new indie genre. Sometimes it's just about building a better version of a game that exists. You know, so like for example, everybody's played Monopoly, right? Or at least you know how it's played. You know the idea behind it. Well, Monopoly is one of the most popular games ever, but if you get some real game analysts in to talk about Monopoly, they'll sit there and they'll tell you what a terrible game it is, how badly designed it is, how it can take hours and hours, and you know, some people are out at the very beginning of the game, and then other people have to go on for like 12 hours to finish the game. So it has a lot of deep flaws in it, but obviously it's really popular. So somebody could look at Monopoly and say, how do I resolve those flaws and use the same sort of mechanisms and create a game that's better than Monopoly? And I'm sure it's been done. We don't know the name of the game because Monopoly sort of blots out the sun. Anything that's even close to it is still going to be compared to Monopoly. But, obviously somebody could create a better version of Monopoly. It could be an inspiration. Okay. So there's a few terms here which we can talk about. Game design terms. So feature list, a list that details key features or selling points for a game. Brainstorming, of course, a process to generate ideas, usually done in a group. Now, did any of you guys use sort of a brainstorming process to develop your game ideas?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. So did you think that was successful?
I got us moving in a direction.
You got us moving in a direction, and then everybody else kind of contributed their ideas?
Well, I mean, I pinged off of everybody's ideas and gave a little bit of nudge here and there where it was like, let's do a little bit something different with the mechanic. But yeah, it was a brainstorming session. We were all trying to figure out what we wanted to do, how we wanted to play it, kind of going through examples a little bit. But yeah.
Did any of the games that were developed, did any of them emerge completely out of a brainstorming session, or did they all emerge where somebody had one very solid idea and everybody else kind of riffed on that?
Kind of how our team played out, Team 3. We kind of went with, we wanted a basic, we kind of narrowed it down to a basic idea. And then from there, our first step as a group was to pretty much get down the visual aspect of the whole thing, which was like the art, distributing the art between each member of our group. And then afterwards, we're gonna plan on the next steps, which is basically, yeah, like the actual gameplay and the rules and stuff.
Okay.
So our brainstorming, pretty much we want to just basically get a visual of the whole thing, and that'll make it really easy for us in the end to get a grip on what the rest is going to turn out like.
So did you feel like it was a pretty democratic process where everybody had sort of an equal voice?
Yeah, especially when it came down to narrowing it down to a simple format that we think we could, all put in some good art with too.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. It's good because it gives everybody the chance to contribute, and then you can get sort of the, the sum of the parts, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts type of scenario where if everybody feels like their voice is being heard and they can contribute equally, then they're not afraid to speak out when they see something that's a little weaker. They can contribute an idea that make it stronger, and then the whole game is stronger. So that's a good way to go about it. Okay, so I think what I want to do, since I've got you guys, sort of all together in this one place, is I want to give you guys some time to work together on the games right now. I mean, you're all in one place at one time. So why don't you, get together in your groups on Discord, spend the next half hour, working on your games, taking them to the next level, figuring out what the next steps are. Just a reminder, keep in mind that there's no class on Monday, and we'll reunite on Wednesday of next week. Okay. Any questions or comments from you guys before we split into your groups?
Thank you for showing me how to do grids.
You're so welcome. And I would feel like a big success if somehow I could interest you in Illustrator at some point.
Okay.
I don't know if it's possible, but it's one of my favorite programs, so it's got to have something going for it.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, yeah, break into your groups, spend the next half hour, see what you can get done, okay?
Sweet.
All right.
Greg,
Yeah.
I was actually wondering if you knew of any good sites to convert STL to object files.
I heard the object files, but what was the first format?
STL.
STL. Got it.
Yeah.
Blender.
Blender.
Yeah. Do you know how to use it?
No.
Okay.
But I think Sam does.
You don't even know how to. You don't even have to know how to use it. All you have to do is download it because it's free. And what you do is you go, file import, and then you choose STL, and then you bring in the object, and then you go, file export, and you choose OBJ as the output, and boom. And I know that it works for a fact because virtually, half the models that I bring in the tabletop simulator, I do exactly that.
Okay. Cool. Sam just sent a message about that, so maybe we can mess with that.
Yeah.
So cool. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
All right, that was it. Adios.
Okay. Yeah, Tim, no problem. Hey, you guys, I don't know if you're still on or not, but we've got a newer addition to the class who would like to join a group. Is there anybody that could use maybe another pair of helping hands? And you guys still on there? Creed, Jazz, you guys still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
So Creed, we have a gentleman named Tim Kelly who just joined the class. He was in my class last semester, but he's retaken the class. Is there any room for another person on your team?
I'm trying to think if there's something else because we have Eduardo doing the card artwork. I'm doing the stats and rules, and then Brian's doing the game board or the box art.
Actually, Greg, if you don't mind, I'll have him on team 1.
You'd like to have?
That works.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. You
Cool.
okay with that, Tim?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. So Tim, they have a Discord channel, and Jazz, maybe you could throw that in the chat so Tim can join you guys.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, Tim, he put the link in there, and then he's team 1. So you just want to.
Yeah, go ahead and when you join, I'll give you the role. There we go, Tim. Yes. All right, Tim, welcome aboard. All right, now you have access to the voice channel team 1 and the text channel team 1. And I am currently in the Discord team 1 voice channel. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to switch over there and wrangle some people.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm going to turn my video off, but if you guys have any questions, I'll be here till 5. So just pop in and let me know.